This week on The Travel Detective, it's the capital of Mexico, the largest and highest elevation metropolitan area in North America, with great history, food, parks, and hotels. But most of you haven't been here, and if you have, you don't know it. I'm going to show you my hidden gems of Mexico City. Plus, Santa Rosa is best known for its vineyards, but there's much more to see and do here as I show you how to bike, paddle, and skate like a local. And then, London and Atlanta are among the top cities to catch a connecting flight. I'll tell you about some secret airport hubs to get on your radar. I'm Peter Greenberg. All that and more on this edition of The Travel Detective. Welcome to the Zocalo in the heart of Mexico City. This city has more than 21 million people. It's the largest metropolitan area in the Western Hemisphere. But there are so many great reasons that keep me coming back here. The art scene, the food, the history, the ruins, not to mention more museums than any other city in the world. But it's also so easy to get lost in the traditional tourist attractions, or in some cases, becoming overwhelmed by them. So let me show you some of my hidden gems of Mexico City. Founded by the Aztecs in 1325, Mexico City is located in a valley in the high plateaus of south-central Mexico at an altitude of 7,350 feet above sea level, making it both the oldest and the highest metropolitan city in North America. In 1519, the Spanish explorer Hernán Cortés arrived with 400 of his men to begin what would be a 2-year campaign to seize the city. In August of 1521, the Aztecs were defeated after a brutal 3-month siege in which they suffered from a lack of food and water, as well as a smallpox epidemic that had been brought to Mexico by the Europeans. Though much of the city had been destroyed during the battle, the Spanish claimed the palaces that were left, and then built churches over the remains of the Aztec temples and pyramids. Many remnants of the ancient city still remain, like the Templo Mayor next to the Metropolitan Cathedral. It's on almost every tourist's must-see list. But if you want to see something that most visitors don't even know exists, you'll have to go beneath the cathedral. Here's where you'll find part of a 15th century pyramid that was discovered during a renovation of the church in 1976. It honors Tonatiuh, the Aztec sun god, and it contains an intact Chimali, a shield that contains a symbol of the universe. Anyone can view the ruins, which are a real treat for archaeology buffs, but you'll need to get permission from the Office of Culture and Tourism for the Metropolitan Cathedral before you arrive. One of the best ways to see any city is by bike, and Mexico City is no exception. I'm from New York, so I love Central Park. But the real surprise here is Chapultepec. It's twice the size of Central Park. We're talking 1,700 acres, one of the largest parks in the Western Hemisphere. There's so many cool places to see, if you know where to look. Most people who come to the park will visit the castle, which is the only royal castle in the Americas, or maybe the zoo, which is the most popular attraction in the park. There's even an amusement park for the kids, and for the young at heart. These are all worth doing, but if you want to avoid the crowds, there are some lesser-known places you don't want to miss. Now, if you're looking for great art in Mexico City, you don't have to look far. 160 separate museums. But then, right in the middle of Chapultepec Park, inside this building, is something that will really surprise you. The Carcamo de Dolores was constructed in 1951 as part of a water distribution system for Mexico City. It was designed by architect Ricardo Rivas, and it was a working part of the municipal system up until the 1990s. And inside is a real surprise. Behind me, a mural by the legendary Diego Rivera. It was actually a reservoir here in the park, but when the water started fading the paint, they got rid of the water and decided to preserve the whole thing. The mural, called Water, Origin of Life, is nearly 3,000 square feet, and in it, the artist portrays the importance of water to human evolution, while also honoring the engineers and workers who participated in the construction project. Rivera even includes his daughter, who is shown swimming in a pool. Before you leave, Take a good look at the tiled fountain outside the building, which was also designed by Rivera. It honors the Aztec rain god and served as the ceremonial entry from the Lerma River to the reservoir. From here, you get back on the bike. It's about a 20-minute ride. Come on, you need the exercise to our next secret location. Just past a large monument honoring Mexican World War II heroes, you'll find a pathway that's easy to miss if you're not paying attention. Welcome to the Audiorama. If you're looking for a quiet spot to relax in the middle of this urban park, well, this is the place. Grab a book from the library cart and then spend some time reading or napping while you listen to the classical, jazz, or new age music that's piped from the speakers tucked away in the trees. About 20 miles from the city center, you'll find the Chinampas, man-made floating islands along the canals of Xochimilco, one of Mexico City's 16 boroughs. On the weekends, local families and rowdy visitors pile into the colorful gondolas and spend the day eating, drinking, and celebrating. But there's another part to these canals that most visitors never see, the ecological zone of Cuemanco. Not only can you get away from the crowds, but you can tour the reserve and see how the farmers are using the Chinampas to grow organic fruits and vegetables through traditional agricultural practices. If the produce in the Chinampas has inspired you to cook, then head right back into the city to Casa Jacaranda. It's a cooking school run by Beto Estua and Jorge Fitz from their home in the Colonia Roma district. The class is an all-day affair that begins with a tour of a nearby local market for a little lesson in traditional Mexican ingredients and to pick up some things you'll actually use to make your meal.
This family's mole is amazing. Just a pinch. That was a small pinch.
Well, that's good. Whoa! It's got a kick.
These are sweeter chiles, and I like to touch it because as dry as they are, they're still a little bit supple.
Yeah.
And still very fresh and,
wow.
and very aromatic.
Yeah.
Oops.
From the market, it's straight up to the kitchen, where you'll dice, chop, and blend as the chefs share the tradition and history behind the recipes.
Very nice.
One of the best chunky salsas you've ever had.
Yeah, you're ready for a taco here.
So now it's time for you to make tamales.
I think I can do that.
This is my family's recipe.
This is not salted butter, this is
just plain butter. Just go around, break any lumps in there, and then squeeze it if you want. you want to
this
play
is
with
weird.
it. Yeah. No,
okay.
It's good. Come on. Bravo. Super.
tamale. And after 45 minutes in a steamer, these fresh tamales would make any mamacita proud.
So a little bit of crema, a little bit of salsa.
Okay, just try that.
Gotta try it. This is really good. Nicely done.
No, nice job. You were the one who cooked here.
So I graduated?
Totally.
Okay, I'm taking one more bite. This is too good. La Casa Azul, also known as the Frida Kahlo Museum, is one of Mexico City's most popular and busiest museums. Most days, the entrance queue snakes around the block, and you can wait for hours just to get in. But if you want to avoid the crowds, there's another museum just a short walk from there with a fascinating history you do not want to miss. The Museo Casa de Leon Trotsky is the former home of exiled Soviet revolutionary Leon Trotsky. Trotsky was forced into exile from Russia in 1929, and in 1937 he came to Mexico City to live with friends, Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera. 2 years later, he moved to this home, which he shared with his wife Natalia, his staff and bodyguards, and his grandson, Esteban Volkov. He lived here until he was assassinated in his study with an alpine climbing axe. In 1990, on the 50th anniversary of the assassination, the house was turned into a museum, an asylum institution, and the interiors were left just as they were in 1940. And today, Trotsky's grandson, still alive, is the director of the museum. Would you say that this is one of the more unusual museums in Mexico City?
Well, yes, because this museum has the trend to keep exactly like it was 80 years ago, no? When Trotsky was here. That's the main interest, that people go back in tunnel of time. And
When somebody comes here,
yes,
what do you hope that they will learn?
the simplicity in which Trotsky lived in very Spartan condition. His main interest was his political ideas, his fight against one of the most bloodish dictatorships that history has seen.
Who comes to this museum?
Professors, students, tourists, all kind.
So this is truly an unusual living museum.
Exactly, exactly. We keep the ashes of Leon Trotsky and also the widow, Natalia.
And when you leave this earth,
I hope, I don't know, if,
right over there,
if there is room for me.
but hopefully not too soon.
I don't know, I am surprised. 92 years, I am living extra time.
We're all on extra time. We are all on extra time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, it's a pleasure.
I think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen. All for free. No subscription required.
When I started flying, there were basically three kinds of fares: first class, coach, and night coach. Boy, are those days gone. Today there can be 5 different classes on an airplane and 34 different fares for each flight. And then there's basic economy. It's not simple economy, it's not plain economy, it's not regular economy, it's a misnomer, and it can be really confusing to people.
Let's start with the most confusing new fare on the market, basic economy, at Delta, American, and United. It means you get a seat and not much else. You don't get a seat assignment until you check in. You often don't get overhead bin space. You board in the last group. You can't upgrade or change your reservation. If you bring a carry-on bag to the gate that won't fit under a seat, you not only get charged a checked baggage fee, but you also get charged a hefty penalty called a gate service fee that really will up the price of your trip. And on some basic economy fares, you don't even get mileage. Airlines are using this stripped-down ticket to match prices with discount airlines, some of which don't give you an advanced seat assignment or overhead bin space unless you pay extra. It's become a way for airlines to keep business travelers from buying the cheapest tickets, like the old requirement forcing you to stay over on a Saturday night if you want to get the cheapest fare. Of course, business travelers want some of those basics that basic economy lacks, so they end up paying higher fares. The strategy is working for airlines, and some airlines are expanding it to more and more flights, including international flights.
So do you like sticker shock? Even savvy travelers get seduced by a low fare and then show up at the airport and realize they have to pay more to get what they thought was basic. Heck, some English teachers bought basic economy, not realizing that it wasn't standard. It's not like airlines consulted the dictionary when they named basic economy, so shop wisely.
If you're coming to Santa Rosa, California, it's almost inevitable. You're going to be surrounded by vineyards. Not surprisingly, in Sonoma County, there are more than 425 wineries, and that number is growing. But for the folks who live in Santa Rosa, the destination is not the wineries. It's just the beginning of the journey. So let me show you Santa Rosa like a local. Roughly roughly 60 miles north of San Francisco, you'll find Santa Rosa, Sonoma County's largest city. Many know this region for its Mediterranean-like climate, warm summers and wet winters, making it an ideal agricultural location. This is a community that knows its food, and of course, it really knows its wine. But it might surprise some of you to know that wine is not the only drink Santa Rosa is known for. In recent years, it's risen to the top of the craft beer movement. Like winemaking, there's a distinct science behind brewing. After some careful chemistry, you end up with delicious, sometimes award-winning beer. Santa Rosa is now known for its microbreweries, and there are plenty of locations to choose from. But the one most people are probably familiar with is the Russian River Brewery. Every year, this Santa Rosa staple offers a 2-week release of Pliny the Younger. Beer enthusiasts from around the world come to sample this extremely limited time craft brew, lining up sometimes up to a day in advance just to get a sample. But as you might suspect, there's more to Santa Rosa than just grapes and hops. Santa Rosa is an incredibly bike-friendly place. 200 miles of bike paths, and in fact, some of them parallel the SMART train here. It'll get you up to 40 miles away to San Rafael in Marin County. But the really cool part about Santa Rosa, you're never more than an 8-minute bike ride away from some pretty surprising destinations. One of those places is the Redwood Empire Ice Arena, otherwise known as Snoopy's Home Ice. Next door, you'll find the Charles M. Schulz Museum, where you can view artifacts and the history of his classic comic strip, Peanuts, as well as Schulz's connection and love for Santa Rosa. But at Snoopy's Home Ice, you'll get a more interactive experience of Peanuts' world. The arena was built back in 1969 by Charles Schulz, the creator of Peanuts. Then he gave it as a gift to the city of Santa Rosa so that people could come out and hang out and have fun on the ice. The ice rink also hosts classes for all ages, including as young as this group of toddlers, who sometimes get to meet with one of the most popular Peanuts characters. You know, Snoopy. And if you're lucky, sometimes Snoopy comes out and hangs out with some of the older kids. The older kids in Santa Rosa also know how to enjoy another water-related activity. Although for this one, the water's not frozen. About 30 minutes from downtown Santa Rosa, you'll find the Russian River. It stretches all the way through Mendocino and Sonoma counties, about 110 miles. And from here, 45 miles straight to the Pacific Ocean. And if you're feeling bold, you can do that in about 3 days. But an easier way to leave Santa Rosa is heading to one of the cutest, that's right, I said cutest, and most manageable airports in the U.S., Sonoma County Airport. With nods around the terminal to Peanuts, and a restaurant that I always make the time to stop at, it's worth the trip. Last, and for some of you certainly not least, folks coming to Santa Rosa get an extra added perk. You know, in a world of nickel and diming where the airlines want to charge you a fee for everything short of breathing, and by the way, I have no idea how they pulled this one off, check in a case of wine for your return flight? Alaska Airlines flies it back for free. How's that for a bon voyage? Are you thinking of flying to Europe or Scandinavia? Most of you will want to go point to point and non-stop on the usual suspect airlines. But as part of our continuing series on secret hubs and secret flights, I'm talking about airports and airlines you might not think about as connecting points to get to your final destination. Welcome to the Dublin Airport and Aer Lingus. In essence, Ireland is not just a destination, but a super hub. Aer Lingus flies to more than 80 destinations across Europe and North America. From the U.S., the airline flies to and from Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, as well as Newark and New York, Orlando, Philadelphia, Seattle, San Francisco, and Washington, even Hartford, Connecticut. And then from there, you get to connect through to Europe. Not just to the likely suspects of London and Paris, Amsterdam or Frankfurt, but even nonstop service to Venice, Athens, Dubrovnik, and even out to the Canary Islands. One of the great secret flights used to be Los Angeles to Dublin on a very unlikely carrier, Ethiopian, which also happens to be Africa's fastest growing airline, with connections through Addis Ababa to 21 countries in Africa and 100 destinations around the world. But now the airline has figured out an even wilder fifth Freedom Connection flight, nonstop between Los Angeles and Lagos, Nigeria, and then connections on a state-of-the-art Boeing Dreamliner. That's a real secret flight and a pretty secret hub. Another great hub is in Asia. Tokyo's Narita Airport handles over 40 million passengers a year with 250,000 flights. But for passengers flying Delta, it makes a difference. You see, it dates back as the former Northwest Airlines super hub. Northwest, then called Northwest Orient, was the first U.S. airline to fly directly to Tokyo after World War II. Now you can fly nonstop on Delta to Tokyo and then to many other cities in Asia with minimum connecting times. And then there's Qatar's Hamad International Airport, with Doha becoming one of the top hubs for connecting flights. Each year, Hamad International handles more than 360,000 flights and 30 million passengers. And that's no easy feat.
The highest peak we have every day is around 110 movements a day on the ground, and daily we have more than 610 flights every day as a movement.
What does this mean? Every hour, 100 takeoffs and landings are possible. And when you do the math, that's 5 planes every 3 minutes. When you think of the new routes that you started, which are the ones that were the most surprising to you?
Very exotic destinations like Krabi, we have gone to Chiang Mai, we have gone to Eastern Europe destinations which was ignored in the past, and we are going to go to more exotic destinations that passengers love to go to. We have a lot of expansion plan. We expedited some, but we also added some because Qatar Airways has a strategy to have a very large network. And we are going to pursue our aims very rigorously in order for us to make sure that Hamad International is one of the major players in the hubbing industry, and Qatar Airways will keep on growing to new heights.
So the next time you fly internationally, think outside the box. Look for the hub, not just your final destination. When checking into your hotel, it's always nice to request a room with a view. But how about a room with some history too? You can find one, if you know where to look. Belmont Reed's Palace in Madeira, Portugal, has been around since 1891. One of its presidential suites is named after Winston Churchill. That's because the former British Prime Minister wrote his memoirs and loved to paint while staying here. If you're in Venice, go to the Europa Regina. It's a beautiful hotel on the canal, 185 rooms. But head for the wing that goes back to the 17th century and ask for room 305. Great view, right? But it's not just your view, it was Monet's view. He stayed here, he lived here, he painted from here. And if you want to see what he saw, you can go to an art gallery or a museum, or you can just open the window. You see exactly what he saw and what he painted. In London, there's the Trafalgar at St. James. It's a hotel which was once the home of the Cunard Steamship Company. Cunard was in direct competition with the White Star Line that built the Titanic. News of the Titanic sinking first broke in the Trafalgar. And then there's the Grand Hotel in Stockholm, with its direct Swedish royal family ties. The Bernadotte Suite was named after the king's uncle Sigvard, who was commissioned to decorate the entire hotel floor. And that does it for this episode. I'll see you next time on another edition of The Travel Detective. This week on The Travel Detective, you'll find it in the central part of Mexico, the birthplace of the country's independence. It's rich in colonial architecture and history, and in one town, 12% of the population is American, and with good reason. So let me share with you some of my hidden gems of the state of Guanajuato. Plus, some sobering statistics. America's most dangerous roads when it comes to DUIs. And then, from Sigmund Freud to broken hearts, we introduce you to some unexpectedly compelling museums. I'm Peter Greenberg. All that and more on this edition of The Travel Detective. Mexico's War of Independence began in this state. Not surprisingly, it attracts visitors interested in history. But look beneath the surface, literally, and you'll find some of my hidden gems of Guanajuato. Guanajuato is a landlocked state in central Mexico with a population of over 5 million people. Its capital is Guanajuato City, which was founded as a mining town. The nearby Reyes mine is the oldest in Guanajuato, and Spanish explorers started mining it in the mid-1500s. Producing gold and silver, it's still operational today. When the silver trade was booming in the 1700s, the city blossomed, constructing the many Baroque and neoclassical buildings that adorn the hillsides. And as you stroll through the city, you'll find this beautiful architecture just about everywhere, like in its many churches and in the magnificent Benito Juarez Theater in the city's main square. The theater had its first performance in 1903, and it's still active with shows and tours.
También me pregunto cuando alguien me dice que lloras por mí.
This is an eminently walkable city, and they've done a remarkably good job of preserving their architecture and their history and their music. Just look up and take a look at the buildings, you'll see what I mean. But then don't forget to look down about what you're walking on. That's when the story gets really interesting. Beneath the city, you'll find a network of underground roads. These tunnels were originally built to control floodwaters. Guanajuato City is in the bottom of a canyon because the original miners relied on the river for the refining process. But as the city grew, it suffered from extensive flooding. In fact, a major flood destroyed the city in 1780, with many of today's existing structures built directly on top of the ruins. These tunnels were constructed in the 1800s to stop additional flooding, and once a dam was eventually built that brought the river under control, these tunnels were converted for vehicle use, allowing you to drive below Guanajuato's cobblestone streets. This was a town built by miners and the silver ore they brought up from the ground. And you see it everywhere in Guanajuato City, like this store called Casa Quixote. You can work with one of the store's skilled artisans and design your own personalized piece of jewelry. One of Guanajuato's signature styles is of pajaritos, or birdies, representing a local legend of doves that guided lost Spanish soldiers into the city. There are dozens of other shops throughout the city, but I headed instead to the local market to indulge my sweet tooth and bite into a charamusca, a popular Guanajuato treat. Whoa. Yep, gonna see the dentist right after this. All right, candy is candy, and I admit it, I eat that wherever I go. But the one thing you can't get wherever you go, you can only find here in Guanajuato. It's called a guacamaya. It's actually named after a bird. It's over 200 years old and was very popular with the miners. Why? It was inexpensive, It was delicious, and it was filling. Starting with a hearty bread roll, you then fill it with avocado, boiled egg, pork rinds, a scoop of pico de gallo, some fresh squeezed lime juice, and then you top it all off with a very spicy sauce made out of chile de árbol. Those are peppers, which are about 6 times hotter than a jalapeno. Muchas gracias. I present for your consideration the guacamaya. It's big, it's a two-hander, and it's, whoa! It's really hot. Can you say, dos cervezas, por favor? If you're looking for more colonial architecture, check out the city of San Miguel de Allende, about 90 minutes away. In addition to its colorful buildings, San Miguel is known for its vibrant art scene, attracting people from all over the world with its festivals and museums. And if you're looking for a really special way to get oriented, American expat Rodrigo Landeros knows this city, and he can show it to you the old-fashioned way. So basically, we are riding into town.
Yeah, this is the coolest way to get around town, for sure.
Rodrigo now owns Coyote Canyon Adventures, and he leads special horseback tours of San Miguel and the surrounding countrysides. What brought you down here?
I first just came as a tourist. I came as a tourist with my wife and her parents, and once we got here, after about an hour and a half, we decided we had to live here.
It was that fast?
It was that fast.
Originally a portrait artist from Texas, Rodrigo was attracted to San Miguel's art community, which dates back to World War II, when American vets came here to study at the city's art institutes on the GI Bill. Enchanted by the city's timeless quality and leisurely pace, many of the GIs stayed or returned here years later to retire. American expats now make up 12% of San Miguel's population.
And here we are. These are my favorite saloons. Alrighty. And we're ready. That's
We are. All right, let's do it. El Tenampa is a 100-year-old swinging door saloon, one of the oldest in San Miguel. And like much of the city, it feels like you transported yourself to another era.
Salud.
Salud, man. And after partaking in a little liquid courage, I was ready to get a slightly different view of the city. A hot air balloon experience, by definition, is meant to be shared. And on this chilly early morning, I brought my friend and American expat, Leah Alonso, a singer from New York, as my guide. So it's amazing up here.
It's spectacular.
A different way to see Mexico.
Definitely. And you can see the lake, which is the second largest lake in Guanajuato.
Yeah. What brought you here?
I came down here, I collaborated with some artists, sang with some mariachis. There's been a very rich tradition of collaboration and learning from the different cultures. I feel so fortunate that as an artist, I've been able to find a supportive community here to make a living. I've led parades down the street on horses with mariachi. It's like a San Miguel miracle that these kind of things can happen here. This is a great place to call home.
And if you're lucky enough to share a hot air balloon basket with a singer, you might just get a personal concert.
México lindo y querido, si muero lejos de ti.
All right. And it's not just Leah Alonso that you'll find parading down the streets of San Miguel. You may spot some mojigangas. These giant puppets are part of a tradition that originated in Spain, and they've been a fixture of San Miguel weddings and festivals since the 18th century. And one of the people keeping this tradition alive is Hermes Arroyo.
Es mi casa, es mi taller y se llama La Casa de las Mojigangas.
Hermes' family has been in the mojigangas business for 80 years.
Yo empecé a los 7 años cuando estaba muy pequeño en una familia con mi familia.
And at his home workshop, I got a chance to try my hand as a puppeteer. So you want me to get into this?
Yes.
Right now?
Right.
Okay. Here goes nothing. Okay, I'm coming under.
Yes.
Like this?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Bueno?
It's okay.
Okay? This is good? Okay. Oh, boy.
Agarrarlo de aquí.
Okay. Whoa. She told me she only likes me as a friend. I also got to help in the construction of a new puppet.
De glue, pegamento. Nariz, vamos a hacer una nariz grande.
Big nose.
Sí.
Jimmy Durante time. This okay?
More lipstick.
More lipstick.
Más pintura.
Más pintura, okay. Oh my God.
Muy sexy.
Mojigangas are often made to represent real-life people, like historical and religious figures, or the lucky bride and groom. Sometimes the puppets look very familiar.
Tengo una sorpresa para ti.
¿Para mí?
Para mí, un momento.
Okay.
You mini mojiganga.
I love it.
It's for you.
Pedrito.
Pedrito.
Pedrito. Does it work? With my new mini mojiganga in tow, we then set off for León. At 1.5 million residents, it's the most populous city in Guanajuato and is home to magnificent architecture. The Heroes Pathway Arch was constructed at the former main entrance to the city and was heavily influenced by Paris's Arc de Triomphe. The lion atop the arch is meant to represent the strength of León's people. You'll also find more French inspiration at the Expiatory Temple, built in a similar neo-Gothic style as the Notre Dame Cathedral. It took 92 years to complete this temple. They only finished it in 2012. León has another distinction. It's also known as the unofficial North American capital of shoes. It's producing shoes since its foundation about 420 years ago, and it's still a booming business. León is responsible for 80% of all the shoes made in Mexico, producing more shoes than any other city in North America. There are some large shoe companies here, but most of the quality work is done in small workshops, like here at Atelier Amaretto, where father and son partners Gustavo and Claudia Lopez can bring your custom shoe ideas to life.
How do you feel that pair?
Claudio and his father first meet with clients to discuss an idea, then sketch out a design. And once the sketch is approved, the materials are gathered, cut, dyed, then assembled together. Finally, a coat of wax, and it's ready. Roughly 60 labor hours go into each pair of custom shoes. And with that amount of care, the price feels like it's a steal, just $200 American. You'll need to plan ahead, as the entire process takes around 10 weeks. The enduring history of Guanajuato is in the town of Dolores Hidalgo, often called Mexico's cradle of national independence. It was here in 1810, at the Nuestra Señora de los Dolores Church, that the priest, Father Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla, rang the bells and rallied citizens to revolt against Spain. This call to arms came to be known as the Cry of Dolores and is recognized as the spark that ignited the Mexican War of Independence. See the plaque on the church steps? It's the spot where Hidalgo stood and changed the course of Mexico's history. Across the plaza, you'll see another important part of Dolores Hidalgo's culture: ice cream. Ice cream stands are found all around the city, and La Flor de Dolores is my favorite. This family business has been around Dolores Hidalgo for more than 40 years, and they're known for their innovative flavor creations and combinations. Made without dairy, from natural flavors of fruits and berries, like avocado and cactus fruit. And if you ask, they'll let you sneak around back and take a peek at the process. Now that's a Guanajuato dessert worth waiting for.
If you've been paying attention, a lot of flights are getting long and longer because of new aircraft that have extra long range for 19 or 20 hours non-stop between continents. And if you're gonna spend all day at 39,000 feet, you need to do a few things differently for your sanity and for your health.
Qantas is ordering ultra long-range airplanes in order to fly nonstop from Sydney to London. These trips, 20+ hours in the air, will test the limits of the human body in terms of hydration and sleep cycles. They'll start in a couple of years, 2025, but already Singapore Airlines is offering 18 to 19-hour flights. Other airlines are too, including Delta and United. All those very long trips are on wide-body planes with big ceilings, more aisles, and room to stretch and move around. There's another long-range trend happening. Small airplanes without all that room, but with super long range. Airbus is now offering both a long-range version of its popular single-aisle A321 and a new ultra-long-range version. Both can easily fly between the US and Europe. Even low-cost carriers like Frontier are buying the ultra-long-range version, maybe offering flights between Denver and London, for example. And the Airbus A220, an even smaller plane that's not much bigger than commuter jets, has super long range of its own. Startup Breeze Airlines is flying it between New York and California. Another startup is planning to fly between London and New York in a little A320 with 100 seats. So what does all this flight stretching mean for passengers? Consider what kind of plane you'll be on before you buy tickets for long-range flights to Europe or cross-country. A lot of people are more comfortable on bigger airplanes because the ceilings are higher, there's more space, and you don't feel as cramped. It's like the difference between a big SUV and a little Mini Cooper. You'll also need to be careful with your eating. Avoid foods with carbs, salt, and caffeine that will dehydrate you. Drink lots of water. Plan out your sleep on those crazy long flights. If you're heading west across the Pacific and arriving in the morning, you want to stay awake as long as you can when you leave at night, and time your sleep so that you wake up not long before arrival.
And remember to exercise in the air. Yoga, stretching, marching up and down the aisle, whatever you can do. Airlines even have exercise programs in their seatback entertainment systems for things you can do while you're sitting. I know it sounds silly, but it can prevent blood clots and other dangers when you're sitting in the air for hours and hours.
What factors do you use in choosing a destination? Weather, history and culture, music or food, perhaps the water. But what about sobriety or lack thereof? There's actually a ranking of the states with the highest DUIs and alcohol-related arrests and deaths. So which state scored the worst? That would be Wisconsin, followed by South Dakota and Montana. And the city with the highest excessive drinking? That would be Green Bay. The state with the fastest growing number of alcohol arrests and deaths? That's a surprise. New Hampshire. One possible reason? More people moving there during the pandemic. And the state with the lowest DUIs, arrests, or deaths? That's Massachusetts. The great museums of the world offer a window to the past, to other cultures, and to some distinct artistic visions. The better museums allow you to learn. But the best museums, some of which you don't even know about, are the ones that allow you to think, to ponder the experience, long after you've left the building. Many people come to Prague to witness the architecture, which can have a mesmerizing impact on those who view it. But to understand how much the city can truly affect a person, visit the Franz Kafka Museum. Kafka's most famous for writing The Metamorphosis, but at Kafka's museum, you won't just get a biography. You'll dive deep into his very mind. The museum has two sections: existential space, displaying fragments of Kafka's life to show how Prague shaped him, and imaginary topography, which uses multimedia displays to illustrate how, in turn, Kafka's writings influenced the city of Prague itself. The museum is a visually captivating exercise in understanding the reciprocal relationship between an artist and their environment. Museum lovers can find many options in Zagreb, the capital of Croatia, which claims to have the most museums per capita in the world. And perhaps the most unexpectedly compelling one is the Museum of Broken Relationships. It was founded, appropriately, by a former couple after their breakup. The museum presents relics from other ended relationships, all submitted by ordinary people. Some of the stories are tragic, some are amusing, but all the items are imbued with value by the nature of being treasured by two people who were once deeply connected. The museum provides an opportunity to reflect on what items we choose to impart meaning on, and what we believe to be worth saving in a museum, to be shared with future visitors. Probably not a good date night idea. Vienna, Austria was the home of many composers, but one of its most famous residents literally changed the way the world thought about thinking.
It is a very important task to preserve the legacy by Freud in this house, where he lived for more than 47 years, where he developed psychoanalysis.
Monica Pessler is the director of the Sigmund Freud Museum, the former apartment building where Freud lived and worked. The museum's guests can have the same experience as Freud's patients, ring the same bell, and see Freud's actual waiting room furniture, donated by his daughter. But past that, the museum is curiously empty. There are photos of the old office, but you won't find that iconic couch, and that's intentional.
We decided not to stage the original interior because Freud was forced with his inner circle to flee the Nazis in 1938. If we would give the people the fantasy that that never happened because they find the room like it was before Freud had to leave, then it would be a lie against our own history. And we have to face this very dark time.
After Freud left, the building became forced housing for Jewish residents while they awaited deportation. An exhibit in the stairwell honors these 79 individuals with their date of deportation and destination. It's a solemn reminder of what the world was like during Freud's lifetime. And now, more than 80 years after his death, as mental health practices evolve beyond his original theories, there's a reason why people are still drawn to him.
It's like a pilgrimage. The people keep coming because they are aware that here something special happened 100 years ago. Freud gave the human being new possibilities to look at itself. He opened up new insights into the human psyche and its behavior.
That does it for this week. I'll see you next time on another edition of The Travel Detective.